All right, I'm just going to tell you what's going to happen with Bitcoin. It's become clear to me that that's what the people want. All they want to know is, what should I buy? When should I buy it? How much of it should I buy? How long should I hold it? And when should I sell it? I normally do more slightly nuanced educational content than that, but screw it. I'm just going to give you the answers to the test. Are you ready? The answers are Bitcoin now, as much as you can afford, forever and never. Oh, but gold outperformed it last year. But the chart is forming an upside down unicorn death pattern formation. And my uncle said it's a Ponzi scheme. None of that stuff matters. It doesn't matter. And none of the people saying those things to you know what they're talking about. Since its inception, Bitcoin is the best performing asset in human history. No one who's ever held it securely for the long term has lost money. It's very simple. Why are you overthinking this? Forget that Wall Street Journal headline you saw in 2016 that said, oh, Bitcoin's going to go to zero, or whatever dumb bullshit you've heard about Bitcoin over the years. All right, those are the answers to the test. Now, if you want to stick around, I'll tell you how I arrived to those answers. Real quick, you're watching the Sat Stacker Show, a Bitcoin show for people who think deeper about money. I'm your host. My name is John, aka the Sat Stacker. Hit the subscribe button if you want to learn to stack smarter. And now I'm going to tell you how I know the future of Bitcoin is up and to the right. Let's do a blind taste test. Put this Bitcoin thing aside, just forget about that. Just pretend that I'm telling you about a company. You don't really know anything about it, except that it's been running operations consistently for 16 years, never been successfully challenged by a competitor. In fact, its moat is so great that it's worth more than all of its other competitors combined. But more importantly, the total return on this company's stock over the last 15 years is up roughly 30 million%. It's been the best performing asset in the world in 11 out of the last 15 years. Its annualized return over that period is 131%. Out of all asset classes, the next best performer was the NASDAQ 100 with an annualized growth rate of 18%. Yeah, this company is like sort of getting beat up a little bit in the press over the last year because last year, while all other asset classes were in the green, this company was down 6%. Ooh, 6%. So terrible. But the year before that, it was up 121%, which was almost 5 times the return of the second best asset that year. And the year before that, it was up 156%, more than double the second best performer that year. That's it. That's the whole pitch. That's this new company you've never heard of before. And you're going to sit there with a straight face and tell me, thanks, but no thanks. You don't even want any more information about it. I mean, no offense, but if upon hearing those stats, that was your response, were you dropped on your head as a youth? Because this shit is not that complicated. It's like one of those fantasy baseball or fantasy football blind comparisons. You take the name of the player off of the stats, and then you just say, here's one hitter who hit 7 times more home runs than any other player in baseball over the last decade. His stats basically look like Shohei Ohtani, Barry Bonds, Babe Ruth, Mickey Mantle, Joe DiMaggio combined. But people are sitting there wondering if they should still draft him with the first overall pick in next year's draft. Of course, that makes no sense. But listen, there are a lot of people out there who don't want you to buy Bitcoin. Maybe they're just ignorant, but many of them are threatened by it, and many others just want to get to it before you do. But either way, your job is to not listen and believe their bullshit. Magic internet money, Ponzi scheme, scam, Beanie Babies, tulip bubble. These are all very stupid things that ignorant people just repeat to each other back and forth so they can sound clever. Most likely as a psychological defense mechanism from the pain of missing out. But here's the thing. You can let go of the pain because you still haven't missed out. That's the beauty of this whole thing. Bitcoin right now is sitting about 25% or so off its all-time high. So even after a down year, its compound annual growth rate over the last 5 years is around 25% per year. That is historically very, very low for Bitcoin. I mean, that's basically dog performance for Bitcoin, but it's still insanely high for anything else. I mean, Bernie Madoff was promising people something like 10 to 12% per year, and he had to fake it just to even get those returns. And I know because I invoked Madoff. If you're thinking Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, watch this video right here. I already debunked that. Compared to that 25% compound annual growth rate, the second best performer over the last 5 years was again the NASDAQ 100, and it's never come close to anything averaging 25% returns per year. And honestly, who cares about 5 years? That's just an arbitrary random number. It's my video, and I want to pick a different time frame. Let's say we use the last 3 years. where Bitcoin saw a 75% average annual growth rate and a cumulative return of 432%. That's including the fact that it's down off its all-time high. Oh, but past returns are not indicative of future performance, blah, 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 blah. I know. Listen, yeah, you have probably missed out on the days of quadruple digit returns in a single year. Bitcoin's probably not going to do a 10x in 1 year. I'll give you that. But dude, how greedy can you be? You need to zoom out and see that A, it's still the best performing asset 11 out of the last 15 years and 2 out of the last 3. And we are still insanely early. This is an asset with a total market cap of less than $2 trillion. Gold alone is around 30 trillion. Cash balances in money markets over 100 trillion, equities well over 100 trillion, bonds probably over like 300 trillion, real estate 300 to 400 trillion. This Bitcoin thing is a tiny drop in the bucket of asset classes. So take these two pieces of information that I've given you. One, historically, best performing asset of all time. Maybe slowing its growth a little bit over time, but really still keggering at 75% a year over the last 3 years. And then future growth potential, tens of trillions, if not hundreds of trillions of dollars. It would take a 16x from here to catch gold. Back of the napkin math says that would be a roughly $1.5 million Bitcoin. It would take over a 50x to come close to catching all cash balances combined. Simple math says that's a $5 million Bitcoin. Oh, well, NVIDIA has outperformed it over the last few years. Yeah, okay. So if you bought the best performing stock in the world, congratulations. Good pick. That's awesome. Nowhere did I say Bitcoin was going to be the best performing asset out of all stocks and everything else every single year. That's unrealistic. Everyone would already own it if that was the case. But think about it this way. NVIDIA is already now the largest company in the world by market cap, around 4.5 trillion. So how much more room do you think there is for the largest company in the world to keep growing? Is NVIDIA going to double and be a $9 trillion company? It could. No company in the world has ever passed 5 trillion before. Is it going to triple and become a $13 trillion company? It could. Who knows? But personally, I'm a little bit skeptical of all these circular, incestuous AI investments that we keep hearing about, where NVIDIA and OpenAI and Microsoft just keep finding ways to give each other promises of the same money and pump each other's valuations. But whatever, that doesn't even matter.
It doesn't matter!
Because Bitcoin is not competing with NVIDIA. It's competing to eat all the world's cash balances and suck the value out of every other store of value in the world as more and more people come to realize it's the best store of value that there is. Of course, I know people will say that I'm insane. Oh, why would Bitcoin ever even catch gold? How could you ever come close to 30 trillion or $100 trillion market cap? That's insane. That'll never happen. They'll say it's way too volatile to be a store of value. Well, do they know that Bitcoin was less volatile than NVIDIA was last year? I don't really hear anyone saying don't buy NVIDIA because it's too volatile. Stability is a myth anyways. Look at this. This is the last 5 years' performance of long duration US Treasuries. The risk-free asset, they say. This is what you buy if you want no risk at all. Stability itself is a myth. It's a lie. It's just an attack they throw at Bitcoin when they don't want to think about it any deeper. Most people would have told you it would have been completely insane for Bitcoin to hit $100,000. But it did that last year. It actually hit 126,000. Most people would have told you it's completely insane for Bitcoin to hit 50,000 or 10,000. Those were all insane at the time, but Bitcoin has done all of those things. That is the defining characteristic of this friggin' Bitcoin thing. To defy all the odds and all the cynics. To make all the salty haters look like fools forever. To put all of them to shame. Oh, it's going to collapse. It's going to go to zero. The government's going to ban it. You just name the piece of FUD and Bitcoin has defeated it. It's just knocking out FUD one by one. Whatever the next one is, quantum bullshit, Bitcoin will defeat that too. So why am I so confident that this growth trend is going to continue? Well, because I know what these haters don't. That Bitcoin is better money. That it's the best form of money that's ever existed. And that it's the best store of value that exists today. It's the hardest money with the most sound fundamentals. It has the least amount of entropy. It has the longest half-life. It's the best form of collateral. And it's the singular black hole of monetary gravity that is designed and destined to suck the value out of all other forms of money and stores of value over time. As Parker Lewis says, the outcomes here are binary. Either Bitcoin fails and goes to zero, or it becomes the global reserve currency. Even if you believe there is a risk of the former, you still can't afford to not participate in the world adopting a new form of money. This is the greatest asymmetric opportunity there is. If you haven't studied Bitcoin at all before, I know I sound like a friggin' nutcase. But to me, the real nutcases are anyone who says Bitcoin is a Ponzi scheme, it's a scam, it's a beanie baby, it's a tulip, it has no utility, it has no inherent value, it's going to zero. You name the criticism. The second somebody says one of those things, I know they haven't actually looked at it for more than 5 seconds. Remember the stats from the beginning. Best performing asset of all time, best in 11 of the last 15 years, best in 2 out of the last 3, CAGR that blows everything else out of the water. You'd have to be an absolute nutcase to just dismiss that thing and say, oh, it must be a tulip bubble. I'm going to ignore it. Have you looked at the charts of those two things side by side, by the way?
One of these things is not like the others. One of these things doesn't belong.
Those critics' claims are so baseless and so easily proven false that my conviction honestly grows every time I hear them. Because if these critics had real, legitimate, sound, strong, logical arguments and criticisms about Bitcoin, they would use those. But they don't. They say stupid, vapid bullshit that has been debunked 1,000 times, which tells me they don't have any better arguments to use because they don't understand money. They don't understand the history of money. They don't understand the properties of sound money. They don't understand what happens when a superior form of money encounters a weaker form of money. And they don't understand that the holders of the weaker form of money see their purchasing power go to zero. They lose everything as the value of their money slowly gets siphoned off into the harder money. They don't understand that gold did this to many other forms of money throughout history. And that not only is Bitcoin going to do this, it has been doing this to everything else since 2009. What do you think best performing asset in history means? It doesn't just mean it's going up against the dollar. It means it's going up against everything. Basically, everything is down 99% or more in terms of Bitcoin in the last decade. Gold, real estate, bonds, definitely fiat, probably damn near every stock except maybe Google and Nvidia. That is what this looks like. This is the process. It's literally already playing out in front of our eyes. Harder money demonetizing weaker money. Whoever is holding the harder money gets exponentially wealthier in real terms compared to anyone holding the weaker money. That's what people can't ignore forever. The opportunity cost of ignoring Bitcoin is enormous. Holding cash, real estate, index funds, you name it, you're getting exponentially poorer in terms of Bitcoin. And if the world begins to adopt Bitcoin as a new form of money, do you want to be poorer in terms of the thing that's becoming the global reserve currency? I don't really think you do. I give it to gold, to be honest. Gold has held up pretty well over the last 5 years. But of course, zoom out a little bit and you'll see that gold basically did nothing from 2012 to 2024. It returned something like 2% per year. Holding gold got you absolutely crushed for over a decade. And that's actually kind of standard for gold, by the way. Gold's done that before because from 1980 to 2006, gold's returns were literally negative. You lost money holding gold over 26 years. That is absolutely insane. So I am perfectly happy to let the gold bugs have their little party that they've had with their, 2x or whatever they've done over the last year or so. It's very cute and adorable. They've been waiting a long time for it. And it might just be the last party they get for another decade or so. I know, I'm just kidding. To be fair, gold probably will continue to perform well because we are in the age of debasement. Runaway government deficits, ballooning debts, no fiscal responsibility in sight. Governments around the world are going to debase their currencies like crazy. And I'm sure plenty of that newly printed money will end up in gold. But more of it will end up in Bitcoin. So you can stick your head in the sand at your own peril and let another decade go by where you ignore the best performing asset in history. You can let your ego and your hubris make you the main character of your own Shakespearean tragedy, or you can quit slacking and start stacking.